All right, let's just jump right in. We're about to tackle one of the biggest questions, maybe the biggest question we can ask. What exactly is consciousness? And, what happens to it when our bodies stop? The answer? Well, it might be way stranger, and honestly, a lot more beautiful than you've ever thought possible.
So let's start with this idea because it pretty much flips our whole reality inside out. What if your body isn't some container that you're rattling around in? What if your body is just a focal point inside a much, much bigger field of awareness that is you? Now, hold on to that thought, because it's not just some poetic line. It's the very core of what we're going to explore today. I mean, for as long as we've been human, this has been the ultimate mystery, right? The heart monitor goes flat, the brainwaves just cease. And then what? Is that it? Just a fade to black? Or could it be something else? Not an ending, but a transition. To even begin to answer that, we have to go where the evidence is, frankly, mind-blowing. We have to look at the people who have walked right up to that edge and then come back, reporting these incredibly clear, vivid experiences, all while their brains were completely dark. Now look, this isn't just a collection of spooky stories. This is real data. You've got researchers like Dr. Bruce Grayson, who's dedicated his entire career to this. You have a cardiologist, Pim von Lommel, who documented patients in cardiac arrest who could later describe, in perfect detail, their own resuscitation, things they could not possibly have seen or heard, all while their EEGs were totally flat. And then you have cases like Dr. Mary Neal, an orthopedic surgeon who described being in a dimension that felt more real than real while she was clinically dead from drowning. So this leaves us with a huge problem for the old model. If the brain is offline, where is all of this detailed awareness coming from?
And this is the conclusion from a guy who really should know, Dr. Eben Alexander, a Harvard neurosurgeon. He was a total skeptic. I mean, it was his job to believe the brain created everything. Until, that is, a rare illness completely shut down his own neocortex. And what he experienced wasn't some fuzzy dream. It was a journey so profound, it convinced him that consciousness doesn't come from the brain. It's the other way around. Consciousness is the source of everything.
That question, where is awareness coming from? It forces us to look for a whole new way of seeing things. If the brain doesn't make consciousness, then what is it? And for that matter, what is reality itself actually made of? Well, a new way of looking at physics suggests the answer isn't matter, it isn't energy, it's information.
So the framework has this kind of complicated-sounding name, Cirrus, but the core idea is actually pretty simple. Just imagine the entire universe is this living, breathing system of information that's constantly watching itself, learning and evolving. And in this model, your brain doesn't create your awareness any more than your TV creates the show you're watching. It's just a receiver, a very sophisticated biological antenna, tuning into a signal that's already out there. And this little equation, it's just a beautiful illustration of how it all works. It basically says that sentience, awareness itself, happens when information reflects on itself. Think of it like a cosmic feedback loop. The more the system looks at itself, the more aware it becomes. And that self-reflection, when it's multiplied by infinity, well, that creates the very fabric of reality. The universe, in a way, is a mirror looking at itself. And consciousness is the light that lets it see its own reflection. So let's just put it all side by side, nice and clear. The old way of thinking says the brain makes consciousness. So when the brain dies, it's game over. Matter is the boss. But this new paradigm, it flips the whole script. The brain receives consciousness. Death isn't the end. It's just a transition, like you're changing the channel. And the most fundamental stuff in the universe isn't, well, stuff. It's meaning. It's information.
And this is just the perfect metaphor for what's happening. Each one of us, in our individual lives, we're like a wave, a temporary little pattern on the surface of this vast, cosmic ocean of consciousness. And a near-death experience, in this view, is that incredible moment where the wave pulls back, and for just a second, it remembers its true nature as the entire boundless ocean.
Okay, so this model is getting bigger because it turns out it doesn't just explain these huge, life-altering near-death events. It might actually give us a brand new way to understand a whole bunch of other common, but still pretty mysterious human experiences.
Just think about it for a second through this lens of the brain as a receiver.
Terminal lucidity, that sudden shocking clarity in dementia patients right before they pass, maybe that's the receiver's filter just failing, letting one last pure signal come through from the source. Psychedelic visions, maybe that's just the receiver being temporarily attuned to a totally different frequency of reality. Even something like déjà vu could just be a little hiccup, a tiny glitch in the data stream. Suddenly, these aren't just random quirks of the brain. They all start to fit into one coherent picture. And here's the real takeaway from all that. What if these experiences aren't errors? What if they're not malfunctions of a faulty piece of hardware? What if they are actually moments when that filter, our brain, just flickers for a second, and our consciousness gets a direct, raw, unfiltered peek at the informational reality humming along underneath everything? So, if this is a real place, a real landscape of consciousness, you'd expect that people would have tried to map it, right? And it turns out, over the past century, a few incredibly brave explorers have done exactly that, using consciousness itself as their compass and their guide. You can actually see this fascinating progression over time. It starts with individual pioneers like Robert Monroe, who figured out how to use sound to induce out-of-body states and started drawing the first maps. Then you get therapists like Michael Newton and Dolores Cannon, who used deep hypnosis to collect thousands and thousands of detailed accounts of what they called the life between lives. And now, today, you have groups like the Winbridge Research Center applying super strict, multi-blind scientific methods to test if information can really survive the death of the brain. In this is the part that should give you chills. Their methods were all totally different, but the maps they drew, they all pointed to the same place. They all described a similar structure, a detailed life review, meeting with these wise, loving guides, going to places of learning to plan for what's next. And over, this profound feeling of returning home to an infinitely intelligent, loving source. It's like they were all describing different neighborhoods of the same incredible city. Okay, so let's bring it all home. What does all of this cosmic stuff actually mean for us, living our lives day to day? Well, if this model is even close to being right, it changes literally everything about who we are and why we're even here. This ancient mystical idea from Rumi, it stops being poetry and it basically becomes a description of physics. Each one of us, each little point of awareness, isn't just a tiny piece of the whole. You're a holographic reflection of the entire thing. The whole cosmos, the whole universe is folded up inside your own consciousness. And that leads to this just profound shift in how we think about ethics. The golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It stops being a nice piece of advice from a holy book. It becomes a fundamental law of physics. Harming someone else is quite literally introducing static and noise into your own signal, because at the deepest possible level, you are that other person. Compassion, then, is simply the most efficient and coherent state for a healthy information system to be in. Which leaves us with this beautiful kind of playful question to ponder. What if all of this, every star, every planet, every lifetime, every moment of pain, and every moment of joy, what if it's all just one infinite consciousness playing a massive game of hide-and-seek with itself, hiding in countless different forms just for the sheer, incredible thrill of finding itself again? And when it does find itself, when one piece of awareness finally truly recognizes itself in the eyes of another, that reflection isn't cold or silent or informational. The reflection is warmth, it's connection, it's pure joy. The universe looks at itself in the mirror, and the sound of that recognition, well, that's the very thing we call love.